Welcome to Conversations on the Coast, the Bay Area's premier author interview program. We're going to talk today about a book called The Hilliker Curse, My Pursuit of Women. That almost requires that the author would be James Ellroy, and it is. And it's published by Alfred A. Knopf. Welcome, James.
Hey, Jimbo. We go back 23 years.
Yes, and you keep reminding me of that.
Here we are again.
You know, you have given us so much, so many great books, like
American Tabloid Time Magazine's Novel of the Year 95. The Cold 6000, Bloods Are Over, my mega bestseller from last year. The Black Dahlia, The Big Nowhere, LA Confidential, White Jazz, my acclaimed LA Quartet. My memoir of my mother's 1958 murder, My Dark Places.
And short stories, Hollywood Nocturne.
Hollywood Nocturnes, Crime Wave, Destination Morgue.
Destination Morgue, yeah. The thing about that is that you are prolific, and that's great. And in that sense, you're, I think, generous to us to give us so many wonderful books to read. And now, you've given us more. You've given us what I heard you describe the other day as a male romantic memoir. What do you mean by that?
The Hilliker Curse is the moment in time from June of 1958 when my mother was murdered. 3 months prior to that, my mother offered me the choice of living with my dad, they were divorced, or with her. I said my dad, she hit me. I fell off the couch, gouged my head on a glass coffee table. She hit me again. I issued the curse. I summoned her dead. She was murdered, coincidentally, 3 months later. The Hilliker Curse is a treatise on the power of malediction. It is a story of guilt. It is a story of romantic, sexual, and romantic compulsion with a happy ending. And you met the woman I ended up with.
Yes, and it's a very happy situation.
It's a happy situation.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. At another point, you talk about this as the 7-year search for her, she, the other. I survived, you write. God has always had a job for me. I'm the guy who lives to tell you the story.
What I talked about was taking amphetamines and masturbating almost to death, and to an imagery, a panoply of women's faces. I was always looking for the feminine image. It's an Oedipal drama, certainly. My mother was killed. She was taken from me at the onset of puberty. And I have been looking for that feminine spirit for many, many years.
Your mom's spirit embodied in someone else in an acceptable way.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the thing that I find in this memoir, and I'll say it again, is your generosity. Your willingness to tell us things that, that other writers would not let out of the bag, so to speak. You talk, for example, about your absolute need to spend time alone in the dark in order to function as a writer.
If I am not with Erica Scheckel, the love of my life, we are a year and a half in together. I like to be alone. I like to brood. The primary male figure in this book is Ludwig van Beethoven. I think about Beethoven, the greatest artist of all time, obsessively. If one has to identify with an artist, why not go for the top? Why not go for Beethoven?
I don't see why you should do anything else.
Yes.
Go for Beethoven.
I love to lie in the dark and think.
The other thing that you admit, if you will, maybe too strong a word, you don't do much reading. You don't watch much television.
No. No. I read Erica Schickel's memoir, You're Not the Boss of Me, Adventures of a Modern Mom.
Now out of
book
print,
of essays.
which is a problem.
Yes, temporarily out of print. Even I have had books go out of print not long ago. No, I very rarely read. I brood.
You brood.
I brood.
You brood.
I think.
And you don't watch television.
No, I do not.
The other thing that's, I think, surprising in this book, your total willingness to take the blame for things that have gone wrong in your life, for things that you've done that are regrettable.
Well, Jim, you and I are church-going men, and if a rabbi told me this, and we're not Jewish, au contraire, you and I are Christians, but a rabbi once told me that if God were to come back to earth, he had a message for each and every one of us. You are responsible. And I believe I'm responsible. So I would rather take the blame than not.
Well, you're responsible for a book called The Hilliker Curse.
Yes.
And we've got some more time to talk about it.
I'm listening.
We'll be right back.
All right.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Follow us on Twitter at Jim Foster COC or send an email to jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
We have one of America's best, greatest writers with us today. He's James Ellroy. He has another book published by his champion publisher, Alfred A. Knopf. See, we both love to say that.
Knopf.
It's called The Hilliker Curse.
Yes.
My Pursuit of Women. And this pursuit starts with your mother. And I want to get back to her just for a moment because you write, her crime was passionate and forgivable. She inflicted her own damage and repented in true haste. My punishment was callous and premeditated. That's what I mean by taking the responsibility for what you do. I parceled my rage and mystically summoned a killer. We are as one in our hunger and rectitude. I owe her for every true thing that I am. I must remove the curse I have placed on her and on myself. I must revoke her status as the other.
Yes.
When did you place that burden on yourself? I mean, do you remember how old you were when you began to see the things that happened between you and your mother in that way?
Shortly after the serendipitous moment of her death, when I was allowed to go live with my permissive father, it came over me. It's largely a retrospective conviction, the story of the curse. The curse is a summons to predation, obsession. Mm-hmm. The Hilliker Curse, the memoir, is also an autobiographical essay. By that I mean I describe rigorously and honestly my actions as a young man, and then I comment on them as a more mature man. So I have it both ways. I have retrospection, and I have the immediacy of my younger life.
One of the places you wound up in your journey because of drugs and alcohol is AA.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff about AA, which I found funny. Yeah. Your capability of charming the women in that circle, and some other things. But on the whole, what's your read on AA?
AA works. It offered me absolutism and a compatible attitude in my faith, and I owe my life to it.
The Hilliker Curse has some very important women that you spend rightfully a lot of time on. And the first one that you spend a lot of time on is Helen Canode, your second wife.
Yes.
And you write in terms of the beginning of your relationship with her. So I found her. What does it mean? Where does it take you? It means everything. It takes you everywhere. You follow her lead. My job now? Seek groovy happiness with H.M. Canode.
Right.
Which I did. I dubbed Helen the Cougar Woman.
Yes. Cougar now has a negative connotation.
Yes, it does.
It means the older woman predatorily looking for the younger man.
Yeah, to fleece him in one way or another.
Yes, I called Helen the Cougar Woman because she was from Western Canada. She was fair-haired and had blue eyes. She was sleek and tawny. The cougar is a beautiful animal. It did not have this connotation then. Erica Schickel, my ultimate beloved, is the tigress.
Oh, okay. Well, that's better. I mean,
the tigress
in terms of current.
Yeah, the tigress is the ultimate female predator. And I'm not talking about one of those candy-ass white and black striped tigers. I'm talking about the righteous Indian-derived Bengal orange and black tigers who will eat your ass in a heartbeat. But what a way to go.
Lovely animal.
Beautiful animal.
Lovely, lovely animal. You and Helen had a good, two-writer life together.
Yeah.
For a while. She was getting started on writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as I read this book that you were helpful.
Yes.
And beyond simple like encouragement. And Helen, you say, took me in and provided shelter. My life was blessedly contained. It comforted me. The restrictions impinged on Helen. I had a safe place to work and brood. Containment, though, means suppression. Suppression festers and explodes in the end. Helen bought me time and allowed me to go insane at a slow and highly productive pace. It's the saddest part of the book.
Yes, I am very driven. I am very ambitious. I work very, very hard. I am determined to write books that no other author would have the balls or the stamina to write. And I worked too hard for too many years and squandered my marriage with Helen. Certain men, and I am one of them, only learn the hard way in love, which is repeated ass-kicking. So Helen Canode, the woman Joan, who lived here in Frisco, surname not to be mentioned.
Correct.
The woman Karen, who lived and lives in Los Angeles, no surname there, kicked my ass and set me up to be receptive, sane, and ready for Erica Schickel.
So in the final sections of the Hilliker Curse, James Ellroy takes on a topic difficult to write about: happiness. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Follow us on Twitter at Jim Foster COC or send an email to jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
James Ellroy is with us for one more segment. The Hilliker Curse, My Pursuit of Women, is his newest book, published as always by
Alfred A. Knopf.
We both love to say that.
Yes, we do.
We do. Before we get to your writing about happiness, can you tell us what's coming up in your writing?
I have a novel. I am writing it now. Look for it in 2.5 years. It is the first volume of the second L.A. Quartet. It unifies my first L.A. Quartet, the Black Dahlia, the Big Nowhere, L.A. Confidential, and White Jazz, and the Underworld USA trilogy, American Tabloid, The Cold 6000, and Blood's a Rover. And it sets the characters from the preceding 7 novels in Los Angeles, the month of Pearl Harbor.
I'm intrigued already.
Me too.
The century in this book that we're talking about has turned. You're back in L.A., 25 years, 2 divorces, and 1 crack-up later. And Erica Schickel enters your life.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I went to the LA Times book fair in April of '07. I was engaged in a folie à deux with a writer, an acquaintance of Miss Schickel's. I blathered on about her to a woman immediately in front of me, a man on my right, and a tall, very good-looking woman on my left. I kept looking at her, and I kept thinking to myself, that is one big, good-looking M.O.
Yes. Right.
And I couldn't stop thinking about her. And a vibe went down, and I didn't realize the extent to which it was mutual until a year later. I was always inquiring about Erica, married with 2 daughters. She was inquiring about me. We had it bad for each other. We were inevitable.
Now, at this point, you still haven't met.
We have met in person twice. At the LA Times Book Fair in '07-08.
There's a moment at a coffee place, overpriced Java, available, and the flow was evenly deployed. 2 self-obsessed memoirists, and no one talked too much. Who are we? What are we? Should we do it? The heck with my husband and kids. It doesn't feel wrong. It feels sweet. My husband, my kids, the central faith, your reputation and your murdered mom miasma. Everyone will think I'm insane, but I have no doubt you're the one. I said, I'll help you with your manuscript. She said, whatever happens, I don't ever want to lose you. Those green eyes, those beautiful big hands, her buoyancy in the face of years of disappointment, my retreat into her glow. She called me Ellroy. What a moment.
Man, sometimes you just get lucky.
That's what it is, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah, you just get lucky.
Yeah.
And sometimes in direct proportion to the amount of times you screw up in love, you are thusly rewarded in the end.
We are divinely deigned.
We are divinely deigned.
Our embodiment was purchased by a mutual recklessness and refusal to forfeit belief in love. Together, we are sex and courage.
Yes.
Alone, we were skewed strains of self-will. I'm no good without her, and she's no good without me. I had always considered that a weakling's epigram. I was surely mistaken.
Yes.
That's the other thing throughout this memoir, is that phrase, this and this and this and this, but I was mistaken. This and this and this, but I was wrong.
I have often been wrong. I have often been wrong as specifically pertains to women.
But you're not wrong now.
No, I'm not wrong now.
Can you share with our folks out there the last paragraph, please? Or a little more if you like.
I reject this woman as anything less than God's greatest gift to me. I address her with the faith of a lifelong believer. Her very being abrogates all strains of skepticism. She saw me and made me come to her. She found me while I clawed for myself, starved for her and nobody else. Her great love emboldens me and cuts through my fear and rage. She is an alchemist casting of Jean Hilliker and something much more. She commands me to step out of the dark and into the light.
that sentence about her relationship to Jean Hilliker,
Right.
that kind of explains something very early in the book that I didn't understand. That you had equal feelings of love and hatred for Jean.
Hatred for my mother, the shame of a young boy coming in to puberty, confronted with the stimulus of a tall, good-looking, red-haired woman. Let me state, ironically, that Erica Schickel is a tall, red-haired, good-looking woman.
Okay.
Sometimes irony cannot escape you.
An expert on irony. The Hilliker Curse is the book, My Pursuit of Women. The author is James Ellroy. And this has been Conversations on the Coast. I'm Jim Foster.
Follow us on Twitter at Jim Foster COC or send an email to jimfostercoc@gmail.com.